Look, I get it. Every time you click on one of my videos, you expect one of those ultra creative intros that really pulls you in. However, I am shooting creative blanks today, and trust me, no one is more disappointed at that than me. But that doesn't mean I don't have a video for you, because today we're gonna go through some of my favorite calisthenics exercises. After more than 10 years of practice, those are the ones that stuck and the ones that have the most bang for your buck. So if you're ready, let's go have some fun. The passive hang or dead hang simply has to be part of your repertoire, and the minimum amount of holding this position, being fully decompressed and stretched out, is 60 seconds. If you can't hold for 60 seconds, you are missing a lot of strength in your forearms and a lot of control that will become detrimental to you as you progress, especially as you become older. Which is why this is an exercise that I mentioned so many times. Not only does it help you decompress all of your joints, help you with mobility and stretching out both your anterior as well as your posterior chain, most importantly, your lumbar spine, which carries a lot of tension, including our shoulders, of course, and our traps. And it is very much advisable that once you have become strong enough to hold on to the bar for a full minute, to start working on single-sided dead hangs, which can help you stretch out even more of your shoulders, chest, and decompress all of your joints while building even more forearm and grip strength as a bonus. The extended arm support hold is amazing for arm strength, of course, for scapular and shoulder strength, as well as total control over those areas, and is highly adjustable depending on the level of the practitioner. The classic plank as a beginner, straight arm support hold, all the way to the overhead extended arm support hold to add massive strength to your upper body, arms and shoulders, even more scapular control, and a lot of static endurance for holding those positions for longer and longer periods. And of course, holding those can help us build a nice foundation for the handstand and all kinds of other exercises where our arms have to be extended throughout the whole movement. This video is sponsored by you, because you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and maybe even watching the whole thing, you make it possible to feed this little poor soul. Look at her, look how cute she is. Our last video, we talked about the insane efficiency of crawling exercises, which is why we'll start with two of the most potent ones. Number one being the lizard walk, probably the one where we are lowest to the ground while working with all four appendages in an asymmetrical movement pattern with a lot of hip rotation and the combination of upper body and lower body strength, simultaneously working on our hip mobility, our shoulder mobility, opening up our chest and shoulders, stretching out our glutes and our hips, as well as our hamstrings, and doing that while going through movements that require an insane amount of strength and a lot of endurance to go through for longer than 20 seconds without falling apart. If there is one crawling exercise that combines strength, coordination, flexibility, and endurance as perfectly as the lizard walk, then it is the backwards lizard walk, requiring a lot more from all of these aspects to continue with the movement flow. I'd highly suggest you work on this one if you want to become an absolute calisthenics beast, but even more so if you want to learn how to control your entire body in perfect coordination. And our second one being the ape-like movement pattern, specifically the short lateral ape movement, the longer lateral ape movement with one leg completely extended, so we have this insane switch in our hip from one side to the other, basically a low Cossack squat to switch positions. The low frontal ape, where our hips are as low to the ground as possible and our knees are almost touching the floor, forcing us to have a maximum of quad and hip flexor engagement, as well as a lot of flexibility bonus added to this exercise. And the high ape-like movement patterns, where our hips are at the very least at shoulder height, so we have a lot of leg engagement combined with now more upper body strength engagement due to our body weight being shifted more forward and more to the top. And if you want to make this really effective, then switching from one to the other, to the next one, to the next one, and combining all of them through one flow will help you work even more on your coordination. Now, this will be a road to mastering pull-ups, and I'm not just talking about chin-ups, which is a baby exercise. No, I am talking about complete pull-up mastery in any direction and in any sort of combination. Which means that your very first exercise to start out with is the wall pull, the lowest effort, lowest impact pulling exercise you can do in calisthenics, which leads us to the inverted barbell row. And we will differentiate between the one where we start extending our hips, and the one where we start in an already extended position, keeping our glutes and our spinal erectors tight. Once you're strong enough to get in a couple of reps with this sort of height, all you need to do to progress is lower that bar, requiring more strength, tension and control, and then moving us to the elevated inverted row, taking your pulling strength to a whole new level, with two more very important movement patterns on the actual bar, being the classic symmetrical scapular pull-up and the asymmetrical or unilateral scapular pull-up, deepening our control and understanding of scapular movement even more, while now combining more abduction and adduction with elevation and depression. So we can finally move on to an underhand grip, chin up, or as I have aptly dubbed it, the baby pull. With this variation being more of a biceps and arm dominant pull than a latissimus and back dominant movement pattern. Make sure that you can pump out 4 to 5 real, perfectly executed, good form repetitions before you move on to the overhand latissimus dominant actual pull-up, which is level number 1 of pull-up mastery. All of the stuff we've done before has been preliminary work to get you to this level. Moving us to the archer, an asymmetrical overhand lateral movement, with the addition of having a little bit more deltoid inclusion in this movement due to having to hold the top, which moves us to the typewriter pull-up, the lateral movement being at the very top of the motion before we reverse the same movement again, now adding even more deltoid and chest inclusion due to the pulling motion at the top. And then of course we put all of that together into one single movement, which is a complete circular pull-up where we go up diagonally, switch sides at the top and reverse. With this one requiring the most control and the most coordination, plus the massive amount of strength you can build with it. And for those of you who want to work on the more advanced variations before they can do 5 repetitions of the one before that, you can add a bande de résistance so you can start working on your form before you have the necessary strength to do these exercises without any assistance. With this concluding our pulling exercises and our progression, so you have a little bit to work on for the next couple of months to even years. Rapid fire push progression. And by now you should know that we are prioritizing perfect form, which is why we're gonna start with the assisted scapular push-up. Just going through adduction and abduction in a controlled fashion with your arms extended, and continuing with the classic scapular push-up for even more scapular control and strength. 2 of the most important things you will ever need when it comes to upper body calisthenics capabilities. Stay with me, we're just getting started. Moving on to the classic assisted push-up, and here comes the very important part and why we have been working on all of that scapular control, because a push-up doesn't end here, it ends here with complete scapular abduction and a little bit of thoracic spinal flexion, so we actually have the complete range of motion. And if you have been doing push-ups, just these couple of inches left in the movement make it so much harder and increase the engagement of your chest musculature almost by double, which is a very scientific and statistical number I did not invent myself. Then you're allowed to raise your knees and go for classic push-ups, and once again don't forget that abduction and spinal flexion all the way down, touchy and all the way up, extend and abduct. And as they say, diamonds are a girl's best friend because they actually do increase your titty size by strengthening your chest, but even more so, diamond push-ups have a lot of arm dominance, helping you build a nice triceps, both when it comes to strength as well as size. And before we can move to the explosive type 2 muscle fiber movements, we still have the lateral movement of the archer push-up, so you can cover pretty much every single upper body fiber all the way down through your core, and even including some hip flexor and some quad strength due to the massive tension we need to hold in this movement. And from the explosive family tree, we have the classic jumping push-up, the staggered jumping push-up, and only, and I mean only, when you feel really safe in those 2, should you attempt the clapping jumping push up for an even longer range of motion and even more strength dominance. The classic L-sit is not just good for core strength, but for full body tension and control, and as a slight bonus, complete posterior chain mobility throughout our calves, our hamstrings, and our glutes, and all the way up to our spinal erectors, requiring a lot of flexibility to be able to raise from the floor without your feet touching down. Mastering the L-sit will give you a type of control over your body that not many other exercises can help you with. And is one of, by far, the most important things you can actually target with the L-sit, being hip flexor strength, which is one of the most prevalent problem zones when it comes to overall fitness in general. And the L-sit is very reliable in helping you get rid of that problem. With that said, I'll probably see you very soon, so until then, have a good one. Captain Cairo, peace out.